think it's a topic where there's not often spoken about, and it's also
see that microphone is sitting on.
Sorry.
I
I think it's a topic which is not often spoken about, and it's also in other traditions where men and young men live in celibacy. Can you tell us something about masturbation?
Yeah, I can tell you some very interesting things. I did some research about it. Which I will get for you. It's there was a survey done in the United States. It was the last major survey, it must have been something more recent, of the general sexual activity of American people. Basically, they were Congress, the United States Congress was really concerned about AIDS and what to do about it, and somebody suggested that, unless we know what people are doing, how are we going to guide them what they should be doing? So we should do a survey and find out something about the sexual life of the American people, which they did. Congress at one point, under some pressure, bailed out of the project, but the private sector took over and the survey was completed. They asked about all sorts of things, and what they found was basically that Americans are for all the romance and scandal and everything. Americans are very conventional people, and they do the usual things the usual way. That was the main thrust of it. But they found, among other things, that the topic that Americans were most reticent about, the least willing to talk about, was masturbation. They talked, if they did things in threesomes, or men with men, or women with women, or this, that, or the other thing. They talk all about that. But this they wouldn't want to talk about. Even the survey designers, people involved in financing the study, or they were even touchy about it. Very delicate topic. They finally devised, it was a survey, go and they'd ask you questions and so on. But for this particular item, they had to develop a special protocol. They had a sheet with questions on it. You put it in an envelope, and went back to them later. And, people were so touchy about it. And generally, what we hear. Just make sure I'm the standard received Freudian story is that there's this sort of there's this sexual force within the human being, which is something like steam, and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and if it's not released, then the boiler explodes. The guy goes crazy, or all sorts of social hang-ups become permanently installed in his brain. The machinery goes haywire, everything gets messed up, because there's this undeniable, irresistible force that just cannot be held back, and must be released. Yeah. And therefore, especially found among young, unmarried men who have no other outlet. That's the common idea. Here is what this survey says. Findings of National Health and Social Life Survey. Sexual activity tends to have a lot more to do with external social factors. In other words, the environment, and with a quantifiable, biologically inherent sexual drive. The picture of biologically inherent sexual drive means that steam that just inevitably builds up within a person. That's the view. There's this sex drive that just cannot be held back. It has to be channeled either through marriage marital sex or solo sex or something. What they're saying is no. The commonly accepted story is that it's this biological force that just has to, what they're saying is no. So much of this is coming from the environment. If you're in an environment which dictates, you know, you gotta explode if you don't do it. And you start feeling, what's wrong with me? I'm not doing it. You know, if you're in an environment where even they're teaching you, you know, this is a, you know, ordinary kind of a, you know, healthy which more or less every young man does. And you start thinking, this is a healthy, romantic thing that every young man does, and well, I'm healthy, you're a normal young man, why am I not doing this? Or if you buy into, the more the environment is dictating, you gotta have sex, you gotta have sex, you gotta have sex, you gotta have sex, the more you start to feel this supposedly inherent sex drive, which is not, they say, coming as much as gone from the inside. So much of it's coming from the outside. So it's a, in one sense, socially manufactured force, a socially developed force, rather than a force which is, you know, like hunger. Physical hunger is a, you know, you cannot say, well, it's okay, I don't need to eat, I'm just, you know, I ate till I was 12 and that's enough. You know, it's an inherent physical need. But what they're saying is that this sex drive, yeah, there's a sex drive, we know it. But it's so out of proportion. Why? Because the environment has turbocharged it. They never, you know, if you want something to drink, there's got to be a woman on the label. If you want to take an aspirin, you know, there's a woman smiling and saying, "This is such nice aspirin." Everything's got to have a woman connected with it. And the whole environment is just geared toward it. And there are things you can do to make it worse. If you really want to screw up your brahmachari life, guys, get on the internet. And don't pay any attention to where you go. Go anywhere you want. And soon you'll be in the nastiest sites where people with graduate degrees in psychology are figuring out how to torpedo your mind. I know quite a number of brahmacharis who are in serious spiritual trouble because they go to the wrong places on the internet. Anything really nasty you can find on the internet. If you value your spiritual life, don't go there. And if you wind up there, get out as fast as you can. And if you go there twice, cancel your internet connection. Deep sits your computer or something. It's not worth it. Why? Because they're making money by agitating your mind. There are things you can do to agitate, to make a person angry. Some of the people are walking around angry, you make them angry. You lousy such as you toad, you are, I'll make you angry if I look at it. So there are ways to incite a person's lusty desires also. And there are people whose livelihood depends on doing that. So if you go where they are, then you're their candidate, your subject. So stay away from